Welcome back to the Gold Newsletter channel. Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us. Today's time for a company introduction because the company's only been listed for a few short weeks, 5-6 weeks maybe at best, because it's Dryden Gold, a new listing. Somebody was brave enough to come out late last year, brave the markets, and just I don't know. How do I say that? Be brave, I think, is the right word. Be really brave and come out in this market environment. And I want to learn more about them. That's why we brought them on. And maybe a bit of a disclaimer. This is a free interview. We didn't get paid. We didn't share any questions beforehand. It's natural curiosity that led us to invite Trey Wasser and Maura Kolb here on the channel. And without further ado, actually, let me bring those two on the screen. And it's time for some Q&A. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here. Really appreciate you making the time. Looking forward to this.
Thanks, Trey.
Thanks, Kai.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, Trey, Maura, I was like, Trey, I threatened I'll have to ask you. Maybe that's the right way to start this conversation off, as well as you have a bit of history in the mining industry, at least I know of, because Maura, we haven't had a chance to connect yet. But
Yeah.
Trey, we worked together on illegal in the past, and you've had a successful exit from the industry. Yet it seems like the mining industry pulled you back in. Give us a bit of background, like how did that happen?
Well, I think it's just safe to say that I had retired. I moved and bought a house on the golf course and was working very hard on my golf game. But on this Dryden Gold, the right people called me to put something together where I knew I could be, the financing would be easier, and we were able to find the right property. So that's really it, and it just seemed like a very good opportunity, and so far it's been working out.
Fantastic. Maura, why don't you start us off on Dryden Gold with a bit of a summary, like who and what is Dryden Gold?
Yeah. So Dryden Gold is located in Dryden. We're right off the Trans-Canada Highway. We have it running right through the middle of the property. Big property, very underexplored, only 30,000 meters of drilling on the entire thing. It's almost 500 square kilometers, so it's huge. And we were able to put this together. Trey spent a couple of years putting together through option agreements. It has similar geology to Red Lake. It's that Archean gold with potential for high grade.
Fantastic. Awesome. No, appreciate that. Let's, lots of follow-up questions. Of course, it's a new deal. So, of course, we're starting with a white piece of paper here. But let's start with a bit of a history of the company as well. You mentioned Trey has been working on it for a couple of years. It's a brownfield site. Obviously, anybody can see that flipping through the deck. Quite a bit of drilling has happened already. 30,000 is nothing to laugh at. I think a lot of juniors right now would love to drill or have 30,000 meters of drill data in their, in their backyard or in their pocketbook. So, run us a bit through the history of the project. Maura, Trey, I'll leave it up to you who takes that one.
Start, Trey?
Yeah, I'll take that. Look at what we've put together is not just a large land package, but it's very strategic. And in some of the follow-up on the geology, Maura will get more into that. But it's we're running right along the Manitou to Norwick deformation zone, which some people have compared to the Timmins Porcupine Fault. This not only were we lucky to have 30,000 meters of drilling, but specifically on the center of our property, what we call the Gold Rock Camp, and where we're now focused, 20,000 meters of that drilling was focused on just a 1 kilometer strike length on the vein system there. And it's unlike Red Lake, near surface, this is starting out with not only super high grade gold, one interception of 3,497 meters over grams over 8.5 meters. And that's because this vein has it's got a nice halo system in it starting at surface. And so, we have that within that 1 kilometer, and yet we have in the Gold Rock Camp probably 20 kilometers to work with there along strike. So our first drilling program is really focused on extending the strike and finding more of that high grade along strike. And we're able to do that in a very systematic way, which is what Maura and Anna are putting together in the program. but also the strike that because this is starting at surface, we can drill a lot of holes with a 3,500, 4,000 meter drill program.
Maura, maybe a question for you because you're a PGO as well. And Trey, you've mentioned it. A lot of people compare it to Red Lake and the Timmins camp as well. Let's talk about the comparables and what is so significant about it, and what could that mean for the Gold Rock mining camp as well there?
Absolutely, Kai. That's actually how Trey got me to join the team. I worked in Red Lake for about 8 years. I was exploration manager there, and I really liked that challenge of finding high grade. And I couldn't help but see the similarities in the geometry between the Red Lake camp and this Gold Rock camp. There's big folds, so there's lots of good traps in that. And then there's cross-cutting faults that intersect that. And those kind of intersections really create great traps for high-grade gold and high-grade shoots. So that was, what drew me in, and certainly couldn't resist the kind of assays that they'd seen before.
Fantastic. Yeah, let's talk about the exploration program a bit as well. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself because we usually talk cap structure and cash position, so we can put a bit of a framing around exploration program. But we'll do that later. Let's talk about the size of the price here a little bit in the exploration program. So you mentioned 20 kilometers of strike. What's the first target here? What's the first price you're trying to sort of achieve here?
Well, we spent some time this summer actually walking around on the property, and we were able to trace a vein system for about 1.5 kilometers. And that's where the historic, the 20,000 meters-ish of drilling really has been. So that's our brownfields opportunity. There's a big master vein system, it's been historically called, and the Elora vein system. So we have two. And we decided to start this drill program when we were still private. So we'd raised about $1 million after Beaver Creek. And in the throes of the RTO, we actually decided to start drilling the first targets and step outs on the big master vein. And then we've moved into testing the understanding of our high grade shoots. So a lot of boring geology stuff here, but basically we took all the data available and figured out what we believe is controlling the high grade gold mineralization. And then we started testing that in December. And we've been doing this drill program in a phased approach. So we did a few holes in November, step out holes. Then we did holes specifically targeting the high grade shoot in December. In January, now we've been on the other vein system called Elora, which had one of the highest grade historic mines in the camp. It graded 0.4 ounces per ton. So pretty nice.
Absolutely. I'm just looking through the press release. That's why I was looking off screen here a little bit. I see some rock sample results, but no drill results yet. What's the timeline on that?
Coming soon. We've just started getting them back, going through QA/QC, analyzing what they mean. So in the next couple of weeks, you should start to see some of the drill results come back from the early programs in November there and the start of December.
Anything you had to send back because it was too high a grade?
I can't say, I'm a PGO, so I can't tell you anything, but I'm excited to see the results come out.
Yeah, a bit of a fishing expedition trying to poke the bear, see what comes out, see what happens, right? But that's interesting. No, I appreciate that, and appreciate you sticking to your PGO standards. So that makes a big difference because not everybody does, which is interesting in this industry, right? So no, I truly appreciate that. And but run me a bit through the history of the projects as well, because how did you acquire them? Trey, I know. Let's talk also terms maybe of acquiring them and incorporating them into Dryden Gold here.
Yeah, we started out by optioning what we call the Tremblay property, which is to the north, from an old prospector friend of mine I worked with at Ely on the Borden Lake royalty, and Mike Tremblay. And then Mike and his partner were doing some work at the time with Manitou Gold and mentioned that, one of the reasons we liked the camp was because the Manitou was in a position where they were going to have to sell off the project to the south. And that's basically makes up the Gold Rock camp and properties to the south. So, we put those things, two things together. We've actually staked and we've done a few small acquisitions to shore things up. We're working on another acquisition now of some property there, but pretty much have it tied up. The property payments or the option payments, there's 3 more to the Tremblay group. I think they total maybe 200,000. And so pretty non-egregious there. Now, the The Manitou property didn't. We originally had a deal that was over 4 years, $7 million, half stock and half cash. So we have made the original payment and the 2023 payment. We'll have a 2024 payment, and now might note that Alamos Gold bought Manitou mainly for their property up near their island mine, but so that shareholder is now one of the high quality mid-tier companies. But we'll owe them $2 million this year, in $1 million cash and $1 million in shares, and then in 2025 that same, and then we'll own 100% of the property there. So from the public offering, we've put this year's cash payment to the aside, and holding on to that, and then we'll be issuing them shares. Time we're through issuing them shares, this year they should be up around 14% maybe, and hopefully if the stock performs, they won't go over 19% ownership there.
Do they have any investor rights? Anything, board appointment or ROFR?
No, nothing like that. No. In fact, it's because the original contract was with the Junior Manitou. It was pretty much an outright purchase just on 4-year terms.
Yeah, fantastic. You brought up issuing of shares. I think we do need to talk cap structure as well, because you're a new company and you already have 132 million shares outstanding, fully diluted. I think we need to break that down a little bit, just to understand where the shares are placed, who are the shareholders, and to also what prices were they issued. So just as new shareholders are aware where potential ceilings and maybe even pitfalls are. Yeah,
that is something that is really market driven. You brought up the idea of that we were brave, and I don't know that brave is quite the right term to go public. Late last year in this market, but that cap structure is pretty much had been driven by the market. And let me break that down. So first of all, there's no promote shares in this thing. While there was some founder stock at a couple cents, that was only $40,000 worth for us to start the company. And then the stock has been all the private stock, which we raised in 2022 and 2023 for property payments and to start the exploration work, raised about $4 million. The average price of that is probably right around 10 cents. Some when the market was good in 2022, we did a bit higher than that, and there was some a bit lower, but no shenanigans in this, Kai. So there's no properties that were contributed by insiders for big blocks of shares. It's all been legitimate money that we've raised, and it's just been having to be at a what we think is a cheap price, and we were kind of chugging along okay privately, but then in trying to get this private placement or the RTO financing, done by the end of the year. One, we wanted to go out and raise some money this fall so that we could start a drill program and have this news flow going. And we also did some geophysics and stuff. So we've gotten a lot of work done on the properties, a property-wide ground sampling program, and then starting the drill program. But we were trying to go out at a higher valuation, but the first we were looking for a lead order, and Rob McEwen gave us that lead order if we do 15 cents with a full warrant. And so that pretty much set the price for us. And that meant that all in all, between our RTO funding and everything, almost all of the warrants. So I think we've got 33 million warrants outstanding. About 30 million of them came in the RTO financing. So they are up at 30 cents. And then we issued about 33 million of those shares of the 80 2 million outstanding right now, is at in the RTO financing. So the financing kind of, yeah, I mean, we do have that capital structure to work with now, and so we're, being very careful with our G&A, with our exploration program. We're watching pennies and trying to, we think what we've done is invest in the future with that. So where a lot of companies would, probably have to do even a second financing after their public financing to get where we are, we think we are, we're miles ahead. And Maura mentioned the phased drill program, which is working out on 2 levels very well. Is that one, they've been able to, see data come back and core come back as we're drilling and taking breaks and taking a 2-week break. And so that's very beneficial for the geologists. But from the marketing standpoint and for the stock, we also will see this really good flow of news results on the drilling program. So those will come out, first one in a couple weeks, and then a couple weeks after that, and then a few weeks after that. And we should have, a series. It look like a 5-phase drill program. And, so we'll have, 5 news releases spread out over the next 60 to 90 days.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we have some big conferences coming up here as well. PDAC, of course. So it'd be nice to show some show core, because you got some fantastic core, obviously, in your presentation, and it looks like it's straight from the Royal Ontario Museum. Because if you drill, 8.5 meters of over 3 kilos of gold, there's got to be some VG in there. So beautiful.
The vein there. Now, I mentioned the halo. The vein there is 53,000 grams per ton. So yeah, the core is. It doesn't look like VG. It looks like VM.
It's solid gold. It's like solid metal. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Trey. It's like I don't want to let's stay on cap structure just real quick, because I'm quite impressed actually by your shareholder base. You explained how Alamos came in. Rob McEwen was the lead order, but Eric Sprott is actually bigger position than Rob McEwen in that regard. So he's at 4.5%. You have Delbrook Capital in there as well, which is a reputable name in the mining space as well. And Adrian Day, I believe, Europac Gold Fund, Peter Schiff, I believe that's who that is. Correct?
Correct. Yeah.
What's their motivation? Just curious, like what attracted them to the story, Trey?
I'm going to let Maura talk about the meeting we had with Rob, but for everybody else, Eric Sprott, of course, he was our benefactor, if you will, a largest shareholder, owned about 29% of Ely Gold Royalties when we sold out. So he did very well there. So he's been involved since the very beginning. We also have, underneath this deal, we have brokers and bankers and traders from 7 or 8 different brokerage firms too. So we've got a lot of really good industry participation. Let me tell you that this is a story, Kai, that it's pretty hard to tell without people wanting to invest. That's basically the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you had a bit of a head start there with Ely Gold, because I don't think anybody else would be able to pull this off right now, quite honestly. Just based on what I've seen in Vancouver last week, looking at the financings that we track with Oren Inc., it's difficult, especially in this market environment. You might be front running a market turnaround, which I think timing-wise be fantastic. But of course, when I said brave, the timing, somebody needs to do it, and you'll get rewarded. Looking back, it doesn't matter if you list in December or April right now, but you're on the market. Maura, let's talk about that meeting with Rob. Like, how did that go? Trey hinted at it. Might as well include that in the discussion here real quick.
It was really great to talk to Rob, because Gold Corp actually owned this property, and he was angry actually that they let it go. He always had wanted to explore it, and they just didn't. So he thinks there's a big opportunity here, and you may know that he's invested in our neighbor Dynasty Gold. So there is not just us, but other high grade results coming out of this camp, and I think a huge opportunity. You'll have also seen recently that Kenorland picked up a big property on one of the east-west structures. So we think we strategically have the very best one, the most similar to these structures like the Timmins Camp. The Porcupine Duster Fault has been compared to our Manitou Genoric by Metal Earth, so not just us, like other scientists. So I mean, talking with Rob was great. We just kind of shot the shit about Red Lake, frankly, and the similarities and the opportunity.
Oh, fantastic. No, that's great. I always appreciate a bit of color around it as well. Because Dryden is a bit out there. It's on the way to Manitoba out of Ontario. So it's a bit of a desolate area. The Treasury Metals, I think, is in the area as well, just north of there as well. And then further you got First Mining, but that's way further north as well, I believe. So
you know it's in the middle of nowhere in some ways, but it's right off the Trans-Canada Highway. And there's a city there. I actually moved there. And you're kind of easy access because you're halfway between Winnipeg and Thunder Bay. So everybody kind of goes through there. And there's actually a lot of mining individuals that live in the city. So, you know, people go all the way to Red Lake or Rainy River, but they want to work at home. So I always get kind of harassed, when's the mine opening? When are you going to find something? So.
Oh, fantastic. Just mentally going. Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, a lot of our contractors too are there in the Dryden area. So it is a big, really a pretty big mining town. A lot of the infrastructure there in the way of labor and that. And also point out that one of the reasons that this is an underexplored area, it has always been very heavily forested and making the access tougher in this area. But with all the logging that's gone on there, they've actually done us a big service all across the camp in, you know, where they've logged off, cleared off, put in roads, logging roads and trails and stuff. So the access really improved especially from, you know, back at the turn of the century when the historic mining was done there.
Yeah, our last press release there with the new surface samples, that was an area that was completely cleared. So our geologists just had a field day walking over areas that were newly exposed. So we got a lot to go back and check out in this summer once the snow melts.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Just mentally going through my checklist here as well. Sort of want to keep it to about 25-ish minutes, our conversation, as a first pass overview, of course. Royalties. I haven't heard that word. It didn't trigger anything in me. Are there any royalties on any of the projects?
Yeah, there's nothing egregious. The main Gold Rock camp and the Pattons have a 1% royalty to Alamos now, and then another 0.5% to well, it's actually a split up. It's a quarter to Earth Labs. Gold Spot did some work in there, some targeting for Manitou, and earned that royalty, and they sold half of it to Triple Flag. So the main patented claims have about have a 1.5. The rest of the Manitou ground, that 1% royalty can be bought down by 0.5, and then there's also another 0.5 on that, some of that surrounding property to on part of it. There's some underlying royalties to vendors and stuff, but there's no. I'd say it's between 1 to 1.5 and 3% maximum royalties on all the other ground, and so no egregious royalties in there.
No, fantastic. All right, appreciate you clarifying that, Trey. And maybe just as a last question as well, and Maura, maybe for you, sort of next steps. Of course, press releases we talked about. You'll put out some drill results, but I'd love to understand a bit more. How are you going to follow up on those? Like, do you have a plan already, or are you waiting for results to drive exploration forward here?
It's a little bit of both, Kai. So we have a rough plan. We want to do some step out drilling, and so that's what we've started to target. We have some areas that we were able to go out and map and check out this summer that we want to follow up on, and some other high grade results within the historic drilling that haven't been followed up. So we definitely have a few targets, but as we get the results back from these first two phases, that will also lead us into where we want to follow up, what looked really good. And it's very nice to have this ability to take what we're learning from the structural geology and apply it. So we're after the controls of high grade shoots and how often they occur, because in these systems there's typically one and then a space and another and another. So that's what we're applying as we learn it and figuring out. So, and taking all the information we have. So we have this great geophysics base for the entire property, and we've been able to use that with Mira to create geologic models. So we have other targets in the pipeline too that are bigger step outs. So.
Fantastic. No, exciting times ahead. And
Yeah.
Besides drill results, any other news we should be paying attention to? Anything that might happen in parallel?
Oh, you know, we're working on some adding some more property strategically, but no, I think everybody at this point is waiting on the drill results. You know, we've been telling this story, and everybody knows about all the good work we've done, and so we're mostly looking at these drill results and hoping that the market helps us out a bit here and that we can raise more money later in the year. Because as we pointed out, the opportunity here is not just on the strike length, which we're able to test, say economically with a 3,000 to 4,000 meter drill program. But then at depth, there's, in these orogenic systems, there's tremendous potential. And look, for our shareholders and potential shareholders, I mean, this isn't rocket scientists, Kai, as far as, an exit strategy. We've put together a property package, and Maura is putting together a exploration and drill program that will be attractive to major and mid-tier producers.
Fantastic. One last question, Trey or Maura as well. What do you need to get to a resource statement? I know that's always a big milestone. You just started, so it's a bit an unfair question, but you mentioned 30,000 meters of drill data already. So I'm curious, where is that point there, that inflection point for you where you'd say, okay, let's pull the trigger on an initial resource estimate?
We were kind of honestly surprised there hasn't been a resource on the Gold Rock Camp area. Maybe it's from, the prior ownership with Manitou and having the work done earlier than that in the 90s by others. But so it wouldn't be hard to do one. Right now, we really want to get our own drill holes in, our own understanding of it. So it's not a priority for us, but we certainly could do a resource kind of at any time.
Okay, fantastic. Awesome. I think that really covers it for a first pass overview. Like, we don't need to dive too deep into geology. We can probably discuss that later on when we talk more drill results, when we see some of the shiny rock. By the way, I went on Twitter and couldn't see any leaked core photos. So really curious what's coming out of there. But no, I appreciate your time. Thanks for running me through it. I really like these short, snappy overviews and interviews because it really covers the bases. And I think it gives everybody and all the investors a really good first overview. Thanks so much for your time. And I believe, I actually prepared that as well. We can find more info at drydengold.com. So,
there you go.
Fantastic. And everybody else. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't done so, hit that subscribe and like button. As I said, we've done this interview free of charge because we're just curious. We want to find some interesting stories here for the Gold Newsletter channel as well that we can cover over the course of the exploration season as well. And really curious motivation behind going public now, and where's the investment opportunity for us as well. So really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for following us along. I hope this was informative. We'll do our best to get Trey and Maura back here on the channel as soon as some drill results are being published, and we'll give you an update. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for more.